Gospel of Mark chapter 3, verses 1 to 35. Reflection after the verses. Verse 1. And he entered again into the synagogue, and there was a man there which had a withered hand. Verse 2. And they watched him, whether he would heal him on the Sabbath day, that they might accuse him. Reflection on verses 1 to 2. Even in sacred spaces, hearts can be hard. Some come to worship, others come to judge. Jesus sees both the need and the schemes. May we come to God's presence not with suspicion, but with openness. Verse 3. And he said unto the man which had the withered hand, Stand forth. Verse 4. And he said unto them, Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbath days, or to do evil? To save life, or to kill? But they held their peace. Verse 5. And when he had looked round about on them with anger, being grieved for the hardness of their hearts, he said unto the man, Stretch forth your hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. Reflection on verses 3 to 5. Compassion is never bound by rules. Jesus shows that doing good transcends tradition. He is moved by the suffering of people and saddened by the indifference of those who should know better. Are our hearts soft enough to be moved to mercy? Verse 6. And the Pharisees went forth, and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against him, how they might destroy him. Reflection. When truth threatens power, hostility often follows. But those who follow Jesus must be ready for opposition, not because they do wrong, but because they do right. Verse 7. But Jesus withdrew himself with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him, and from Judea. Verse 8. And from Jerusalem, and from Idumea, and from beyond Jordan, and they about Tyre and Sidon, a great multitude, when they had heard what great things he did, came unto him. Verse 9. And he spoke to his disciples, that a small ship should wait on him because of the multitude, lest they should throng him. Verse 10. For he had healed many, insomuch that they pressed upon him to touch him, as many as had plagues. Reflection on verses 7 to 10. People are drawn to genuine hope. Jesus doesn't seek crowds, but compassion draws them. In him, healing and truth meet. Are we pressing into him with faith or curiosity? Verse 11. And unclean spirits, when they saw him, fell down before him, and cried, saying, You are the Son of God. Verse 12. And he strictly charged them that they should not make him known. Reflection on verses 11 to 12. Recognition is not the same as relationship. Even the forces of evil knew who he was. True faith is not just knowing about Jesus, it is surrendering to him. Verse 13. And he went up into a mountain, and called unto him whom he would, and they came unto him. Verse 14. And he ordained 12, that they should be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach. Verse 15. And to have power to heal sicknesses, and to cast out devils. Reflection on verses 13 to 15. Discipleship begins with being with Jesus. Power and mission flow from presence. Before we do anything for God, we must spend time with God. Verse 16. And Simon he surnamed Peter. Verse 17. And James the son of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges, which is, the sons of thunder. Verse 18. And Andrew, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew, and Thomas, and James the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanite. Verse 19. And Judas Iscariot, which also betrayed him, and they went into a house. Reflection on verses 16 to 19. Jesus calls ordinary people, each with a story, a weakness, and a role. Even the one who would betray him was given a place. God works through imperfect vessels for his perfect plan. Verse 20. And the multitude came together again, so that they could not so much as eat bread. Verse 21. And when his friends heard of it, they went out to lay hold on him, for they said, "He is beside himself." Reflection on verses 20 to 21. Sometimes obedience to God will look foolish to others, even to our own families. But divine calling often collides with human expectations. Stand firm in what God has called you to. Verse 22. And the scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, "He has Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils casts he out devils." Verse 23. And he called them unto him, and said unto them in parables, "How can Satan cast out Satan?" Verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Verse 25. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Verse 26. And if Satan rise up against himself, and be divided, he cannot stand, but has an end. Verse 27. No man can enter into a strong man's house, and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. Reflection on verses 22 to 27. Jesus exposes the absurdity of their accusation. A kingdom divided cannot stand. He reminds us that truth doesn't fear scrutiny, it answers with clarity. Lies always unravel under the weight of truth. Verse 28. Verily I say unto you, all sins shall be forgiven unto the sons of men, and blasphemies wherewith soever they shall blaspheme. Verse 29. But he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Spirit has never forgiveness, but is in danger of eternal damnation. Verse 30. Because they said, he has an unclean spirit. Reflection on verses 28 to 30. The most dangerous sin is not failure, but rejection of the Spirit's witness to Christ. When we deliberately call God's work evil, we shut the door on grace. Let us remain humble and responsive to the Spirit. Verse 31. There came then his brethren and his mother, and, standing outside, sent unto him, calling him. Verse 32. And the multitude sat about him, and they said unto him, Behold, your mother and your brethren outside seek for you. Verse 33. And he answered them, saying, Who is my mother, or my brethren? Verse 34. And he looked round about on them which sat about him, and said, Behold my mother and my brethren. Verse 35. For whosoever shall do the will of God, the same is my brother, and my sister, and mother. Reflection on verses 31 to 35. True family in God's kingdom is not defined by blood, but by obedience. Jesus invites us into an eternal relationship, not just as followers, but as family. If you do God's will, you belong to Jesus in the most intimate way. Final thoughts on Gospel of Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 3 reveals a contrast between hardened hearts and open ones, between accusation and compassion, between outward religion and inward obedience. Jesus heals, calls, teaches, and redefines what it means to belong to God's family.